I had a heart condition and I had an appointment at the hospital for a checkup in a week because I had a lot of work to take care of in the next few days. One night, I collapsed at home. My girlfriend was a nurse and we didn't live together at that time. She lived very close to my house. I told her about the fainting and she insisted that I go to the hospital that day for a checkup. I was very reluctant to go because I had a business trip planned and was leaving tomorrow. She kept calling me over and over, telling me to go as soon as possible and that she would go with me. I was going to keep working and the doctor called me and asked me to go now. I drove to the hospital and met my girlfriend there. I just wanted to get it over with so it wouldn't interfere with my work tomorrow. When I got to the hospital, the doctor did some routine tests on me. Next, the doctor told me to go to the treadmill for a stress test. I had been running for 2 minutes when I started to feel a little uncomfortable. I had done this test before and never had a problem. As the speed increased, it became more and more difficult for me to breathe. I felt like I was walking through a swamp and sinking rapidly. The test technician told me to hold on a little longer so that the data would be more accurate. I continued to run for another minute. Suddenly, there was darkness before my eyes. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. I heard the nurse say to the doctor that his blood pressure kept dropping and we were losing him. I felt myself getting weaker and weaker, and everyone around me was getting busy. I knew I wasn't going anywhere but the hospital right now. I felt like I was going to die, and I felt the fear of death. I didn't want death to get me. I started praying and asking God to let me live. If I had to die, I hoped that God would take me instead of Satan. I told God that if it was time for me to go home, I was ready to do so. After the prayer, I was completely relaxed and all my fears left me. I knew God had heard my prayer and bought me more time. I was taken into the operating room. A nurse stayed by to comfort me during the preparation. Slowly, I became more and more unconscious. After I left my body for the first time, I appeared in a tunnel. This tunnel was very dark and kept spinning. I didn't see any white light. My first thought was that I was dead. I didn't see the white light, and I was going to hell. Suddenly, I regained consciousness. The doctors and nurses were busy working. After a while, I left my body again. This time, I appeared at the exit of the tunnel, and I could see the blue sky outside. When I got out of the tunnel, I was mesmerized by the beauty in front of me. I was standing on a big rock at the edge of a cliff. The air was so fresh and the sky was a beautiful blue. It feels like it's spring here, and my favorite season. There is a dense forest and a clear river. The hillside across the way is full of wildflowers, flowers of all colors, some of which I have never seen before. If you think the colors on Earth are gorgeous, you're wrong. The colors here are much more muted. There were lots of little animals playing on the lawn. I've never seen such a beautiful view before. I heard a voice saying, "Keep going, come to me." I was confused because there was a cliff in front of me. I was a little angry and ignored the voice. I was very relaxed here. I looked to the river and the water was crystal clear. I could see many fish swimming in the water, and they looked up at me. Birds flew over my head and looked at me curiously. I also noticed a herd of deer grazing by the river. Across the hill from me, I saw a path that continued from the top of the hill to the bottom. At this time, I was caught by a white light that I could no longer take my eyes off. That's when I heard the voice again, "Keep going forward and come to me." This time, I didn't hesitate. I stretched out my left foot and suddenly, I was flying. I was like a bird gliding through the air, and I loved that feeling so much. I flew over the river, I flew over a deep forest. I flew towards the bright light. The closer I got to this light, the stronger I felt the happiness. Then I saw a sight I will never forget in my life. He was wearing a pure white robe with a beautifully embroidered collar. His hair and beard were long. A delightful white aura emanated around him. We sat on the grass by the river. He reminisced about my life. My life is like a movie. In certain scenes it would stop playing and he would ask me how I felt at the time. These scenes were all about my interactions with other people. I found that I had unintentionally hurt people on several occasions, and it made me feel ashamed. The worst part was that my ex-girlfriend and I hadn't broken up yet and I was dating other girls. When the memories ended, I thought I was a bad person. He didn't criticize me. Judging myself was the worst. I felt so ashamed that I started crying. He said, "This is not to punish you. When you go back, I hope you will be a better version of yourself." We talked for a long time afterwards. Finally he told me, "I can't stay in heaven yet, I still have a mission to accomplish down there." Suddenly, I was back in my own body. I was lying on the hospital bed and I felt I had a very strange dream. While I was still thinking back to what I had just experienced, my doctor walked in. He said to me, "I have good news and bad news. The good news is that you are alive and the bad news is that you have died twice and it is a miracle that you are alive." As my heart stopped for the last time, he heard someone whisper in his ear, "Keep working and I'll get him back." Since then, my life has changed. I care more about my health and my family than I do about my success at work. I now spend more time with my family. I now have a new direction because the work God has given me is not yet complete. I am not afraid of death now, I know it is just a new beginning.